I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President-elect Trump is nominating Florida Republican Matt Gaetz for U.S. Attorney General. Wednesday's news was followed closely by word that Gaetz was resigning from Congress. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said Gaetz is deeply gifted and a tenacious attorney. House Democrat Dan Goldman introduced a resolution reaffirming the 2-term limit for presidents after President-elect Trump joked about it. The resolution emphasizes that the 22nd Amendment applies to Trump, limiting him to 2 terms. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is set to announce the return of the Manhattan Toll Program, with tolls reduced from $15 to $9 below 60th Street. The revised tolls are 40% lower than previously announced. The MTA Board and Biden Transportation Department must approve the plan. And actress Chanel Banks, who has been missing for 2 weeks, has been found safe. No further details about her disappearance or location have been provided. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
New Schools for New Orleans, along with Allstate Sugar Bowl and Entergy New Orleans, would like to send a huge congratulations to our class of 2024 New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Award honorees. This year, we had 90 Teachers of the Year from each public school in New Orleans. Each of them was recognized at our annual gala, where we had over 350 attendees. We're excited to also share that each honoree is receiving a $1,000 classroom grant. Thank you for everything you do, teachers.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Wake up, New Orleans. Good morning.
Good morning. Good
Happy
morning.
Thursday. Welcome to WBOK 1230 AM. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. In studio with me today is
Senator Wesley Bishop. Good morning, New Orleans.
and super producer Naira Sanders is always behind the glass, holding us all together. Listen, we almost at the end of the week, y'all, but hold on. We have a lot of things to talk about. As you know, Thursdays right here on WBOK always belong to our newly re-elected Congressman Troy Carter, but due to some scheduling conflicts, he's not going to be here with us this morning. But we always thank the Congressman for his insight and his expertise, and we'll see him next Thursday. But this morning, we want to talk about some really important information. Yesterday, there was some talk about, and it's now made the news, about some violent social media posts that led to New Orleans school closures. There were some bomb threats, some threats of school shootings that were supposed to take place. As of last night, I knew the schools were Berman, Kip Morial, John F. Kennedy, Livingston, McMain, Easton, McDonough 35, and Sophie B. Wright. I'm not sure if that list has grown. But what I can tell you is Sophie B. Wright put out a statement, and the charter canceled school as of today. They cited that today will be a professional development day. I'm not certain if that was always a professional development day, but in light or in the wake of the threats to the safety of the students and the staff and the school community, Sophie B. Wright opted to close school. The statement reads, "Please be assured that we are closely monitoring the situation and are committed to ensuring our students and staff's safety and well-being. Classes are set to resume on Friday. Thursday is reserved as a professional development day. The source of the threat remains unclear, but school authorities say it originated on social media. WDSU reached out to NOPD to see if they are investigating the incident. They did not respond immediately for a comment. I am always one to err on the side of caution. So if these threats are not credible, thank goodness that they're not. But if they are, the best thing to do is to be proactive about it and to cancel school. Again, I'm not certain if Thursday was always a professional development day, but if we needed to institute a professional development day, it would be today. But we are still concerned for the safety of the school staff because professional development means they could still possibly be in the building. I'm not certain if PD will be virtual, but if the staff and the principal and school leaders are on the campus, we also want them to be safe as well. But again, those schools are Berman, Kip Morial, John F. Kennedy, Livingston, McMain, Easton, McDonough 35, and Sophie B. Wright. That was the list that I saw per social media as of last night. And based on the social media threats, Sophie B. Wright released a statement, and they decided to have school turn into a professional development day for the safety of the students and staff alike. So
that's important. Actually, when I'm sitting there listening to you list those schools in particular, I think I went to 3 of those schools. So I'm really thinking about that. And it's unfortunate that you have to think about things like this. But in light of the political atmosphere in the country right now, whenever you hear of a threat or a potential threat to a school, you almost always have to err on the side of caution, making sure that there's nothing that's going to put our teachers or our students in danger. So we're glad to see that happen, to err on the side of caution. And hopefully on tomorrow, we don't have a situation whereby that's necessary. But if it is necessary, again, we take the appropriate action to make sure that our students are safe.
Yeah. So listen, our thoughts and prayers and well wishes go out to all of our schools in this area. Again, we don't know the origin of the threats. We just know that they originated on social media. And whether they are true or not true, we always want to err on the side of caution to protect not only our students, but our faculty and staff and school community. Because, any threat to the school is a threat to the surrounding neighborhood as well.
Absolutely.
So we just want to make certain that everyone is safe. So shout out to Sophie B. Wright for being proactive. Again, I'm not certain if Thursday was always considered a PD day, but what better day to have PD, to make certain that our babies are safe. So listen. Strong pivot right here, because we went from this whole idea of wanting to protect our children because of threats of violence. But strong pivot, we're going to talk some more about a field of excellence, Rustin and Troy Henry's gift to St.
Absolutely.
Aug. Now listen, I talked about this yesterday.
That's all right.
But we're going to talk about it again
today. You can never
today.
talk about the Purple Knights enough.
Listen, now, shout out to Jeff Thomas for this article. The article says St. Augustine High School celebrated the ribbon cutting of the Rustin and Troy Henry Field and the Circle of Champions, a historic moment for the school and community. This new field, a generous gift from alumni Rustin and Troy Henry, symbolizes much more than a sports facility. It represents the power of giving back and the impact that commitment can have on future generations. How big is it to have your name emblazoned on a practice field for your alma mater? How huge is that?
It is phenomenal. I had a chance to attend the ribbon cutting the other day, and I parked probably about a block away from it, and I had to walk past the entire field to actually get in. It is absolutely phenomenal. And when you see that, I have not seen anything like this or even close to this anywhere here in the city of New Orleans, and I would say maybe in the state of Louisiana, as far as the way in which it's set up with the actual field. It looks like a college field. And with the Circle of Champions, that whole display is just phenomenal. It lends a lot of credibility. Every name that you can think of, whether or not it was someone that played pro football, who was a coach at college or in the pros, along those lines. One of the names I saw, and it didn't even dawn on me that his career actually even started at 35, was Burton Burns. As you know, Burton Burns is a coach at the University of Alabama. Ronnie Burns, his brother. They've done all kind of phenomenal things for the city of New Orleans. So when I saw that, I saw one of my dearest friends, Harold Nash, who played for USL, walked on at USL, became a player, played in Canadian Football League, has been a coach for both the New England Patriots, the Detroit Lions, as well as now for the Dallas Cowboys. And there's a whole litany of St. Augustine Purple Knights who have blazing the trail with pro football and college football. So it's a wonderful thing. And with it being the largest single gift that any St. Aug alum has ever given, shout outs really to Rustin and Troy Henry.
Listen, if you have not gotten a copy of the Tribune that has Rustin and Troy's face on the cover, that edition of the Tribune talks in depth about their donation to their alma mater. So if you have not picked up a copy, you can still do so. The article goes on to say the Henry family's matriarch, Mrs. Elvira Henry, proudly attended the ceremony, beaming with pride at her son's achievement. It goes on to say St. Augustine, a unique legacy of excellence. St. Aug High School stands as a unique institution, a Black all-boys Catholic high school consistently ranking among America's best. Every year, St. Aug sends graduates to top universities, including Harvard, Stanford, Notre Dame, and Xavier University. The school also ensures that all students attend college or join the military, showing an unwavering commitment to preparing young men for success. Listen, I also want to give a shout out to President Austin Taylor. Under his leadership, this school is seeming to literally like blaze its way into the right direction. I know there's some hiccups as with any school, but since he's taken the helm there, it seems that there are partnerships that are happening with universities all over the place. Universities are sponsoring, a student from St. Aug in terms of scholarship and service. I think what he's doing there is phenomenal. The article also highlights that it says, under President Austin Taylor, St. Aug has reached new heights, including the addition of this exceptional new practice field. In his address at the ribbon cutting, Taylor highlighted the school's momentum and dedication to creating opportunities for its students. This field serves as a field of dreams, commitment, resilience, and excellence. If you want to read this article in depth, you could go over to Black Source Media, and the title of the article is A Field of Excellence, Rustin and Troy Henry's Gift to St. Aug. And shout out again to the author, Jeff Thomas, who is also one of the owners here at WBOK, as is Troy Henry. So WBOK and its owners are doing some big things at this little black radio station.
Hey, look, I got to give a shout out. I would be remiss if I did not. When Doc was talking a second ago about every year St. Aug sending students to the pipeline through Harvard and different universities, I have a nephew, and if he's listening, he listens to this show every morning from New Haven, Connecticut. 2 years ago, he graduated from St. Augustine as the valedictorian of that school and got a full ride to Yale. But what I thought was so instrumental was that he had the opportunity to choose between Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and 4 different Ivy League schools coming from the city of New Orleans. And so I was just tremendously impressed with that. So I have a special place in my heart for St. Augustine, for all that it's done over the years, but particularly for what it's done for my particular family. So shout out to my cousin, to my nephew Landon, his nephew, his sister Tia, and my brother Larry and Kim, who was probably one who put that entire piece together, and she's the hallmark of that family.
I also want to point out that the article also gives and pays homage to former board member John Georges.
Yes.
The article says he played a major role in fundraising for the project. Georges thanks Saints and Pelicans owner Gail Benson, who, after conferring with former board chair Justin Augustine, wore a beautiful purple dress to honor the occasion. The project began as an idea from Dr. Dwight McKenna, a St. Augustine alum and current New Orleans coroner. Together, these leaders turned a vision into reality, creating a facility to serve St. Aug students for years to come. Listen, it's an extraordinary gift. It's an extraordinary act of service as well. I mean, because generations down the line are going to step on that field and understand from where their history comes from. I mean, it's forever. Rustin and Troy are forever emblazoned in the history of notable St. Augustine alums. So shout out to those brothers. Shout out to WBOK and its ownership. It's a wonderful thing. And I mean, listen, Jeff is also a St. Aug grad, so I'm certain he took great pride in penning this this article.
Well, Nyron over there smiling.
Listen,
He's trying to
because we talked about this yesterday, and then they're gonna slide it in there. Talk about
producer.
This again today. Oh, okay, all right. I said,
the pride of St. Augustine.
I said these folks know they slick all this St. Aug purple and gold that's surrounding me, but I'm gonna let them live though. I'm not gonna say anything about the university today. I'm gonna just let them have their moment.
And let me just jump in just one more second. The Henry brothers, particularly Troy, because I'm thinking about that, is involved in so many different things, projects, particularly in New Orleans East area. Whether or not that's a situation, if you drive right there on Chef Highway, right there, Chef and Wilson, there's a project that he's working on and has been working on for quite some time. We know that the project Bayou Phoenix is going to be a godsend for the city of New Orleans. He's also at the helm of that. So there's a lot of different projects that are going on that are really going to help for the economic development of the city of New Orleans specifically, but more particularly for New Orleans East. So shout out and thank you very much, Troy, for all that you do for the city.
So hopefully in the next year or so, there'll be another ribbon cutting we'll be attending maybe. So look, shout out to the Henry brothers. I think it's a phenomenal gift. I think anyone who comes from a school in this city and has the means to give back to it, they should. I mean, that's how most schools survive. And not only survive, but thrive. And I do know that St. Aug has, that's one of the things I actually admire about that facility. There's a very rich alumni base.
Exactly.
They show up and they show out for their school. And I'm talking from generations back in terms of St. Augustine graduates. And so, I mean, they show up to games to support the kids, whether they have children on the field or not. They're there to support them. And I think that goes a long way in terms of sustainability for your school and making certain that it can be the pride of New Orleans for years to come. So shout out to St. Augustine and all of their graduates and President Austin Taylor over there at 2600.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's all y'all going to get from me today, Nyron.
And Doc, along those same lines, I think that a lot of high schools and a lot of alumni of some of the high schools in New Orleans has a rich high school tradition.
Oh, see how you gonna open that door?
Well,
Open that door.
I got you.
Open that door so
There's
I can
a
walk
rich
through
high
it.
school tradition. And when I saw that happen at St. Augustine, that I was at Walmart later on that day, and I saw one of my colleagues who went to McDonald 35 with me. And she started that conversation. Like, you know what? That's phenomenal. I said, what if 35? What if Kennedy? What if Carr? What if Clark? What if all of these schools that have a rich tradition here in the city of New Orleans also looked at that and saw how they could come together and put that piece together? So that's going to be a challenge. And I'm an issue that if you're not active with your high school alumni, look at that, see what you can do, because the kids need our help tremendously.
Well, I know I come from 3332 Huntley Drive, but I know over there at 4400 General Maya, there's also a very beautiful practice field for our children as well. So you opened that door, so I'm gonna
We
go
haven't
ahead
got
on.
there yet.
I'm gonna go ahead on and walk through
Walk through it.
So what I do know is I think it lends itself to a lot of the folk who understand what pre-Katrina education looked like and school pride looked like. It lends itself to the viability of that.
Absolutely.
And if St. Aug can have that, if Carr can have that, then 35 can have it. And even the schools who no longer have buildings or buildings with their names on it, if the alumni base came together and rallied behind their school, they could also have that. Your history is more than an alumni picnic. We need to be very serious about the business of making certain that our children understand that pre-Katrina schools brought forth senators and congressmen and presidents of universities. And we have a very rich history here of excellence. And pride in our facilities. And we have that fun back and forth with each other, but it's all in fun and it's all in love. And I love what St. Aug is doing. I love what President Austin Taylor is doing. I love what their alum is doing. And so if it can happen there, it can happen everywhere in the city. But what it's going to take is people putting their money where their mouth is and making certain that you're not only supporting when it's time to get together for the picnic, but you support when the school is putting out a financial call for assistance. So shout out to St. Aug for stepping up to the plate and making certain that their school is what it is because of the folk that came before the children that are in the building right now.
Let me mention this now, and I'm assuming that most high schools do that, but I remember when I graduated from Beyond 35 in 1985, the class left a gift for the actual school. And strangely enough, we're talking about almost 40 years later, that gift is still there.
Well, it's different because you have so many, I mean, our schools are going through so many name changes and building changes, and our children are going from community to community, so you don't really get that buy-in that we once had. Okay. I went to Edna Carr from 7th to 12th grade. There was no interruption in, I go here for 7th grade. My principal is different.
Schools,
John C. Heiser was my principal from 7th to 12th grade. Miss Carol Egerling was my elementary school principal from from a baby to 6th grade. So there was a stability that we benefited from that our children no longer get to benefit from. And that's a product of the system and not necessarily the people who have to take part in the system. But we're going to continue to have this conversation. But we have to go to break as always. But at the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to Colbert Sanders. He's a tax attorney. He's going to talk to us about Governor Landry's tax plans amidst the special session. But stay with us. More conversations with our in-house senator and our super producer, Nyron Sanders, behind the glass. This is WBOK, 1230 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long, y'all.
All day long.
Trying to grow your business or increase traffic to your location? We can help. WBOK 1230 AM has a number of solutions that will meet your individual needs. Give one of our consultants a call today at 504-582-9420 or email us at info@wbok1230.com. And remember, an investment with WBOK is an investment in our community. Call today.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Hi, it's Dr. Shepard with Honeydew Products, here with your Medical Minute. In today's Medical Minute, we will discuss a problematic persistent bioaccumulant, decamethylcyclopentasiloxane, or D5-siloxane. D5 is often used in the first or second ingredient in off-the-shelf daily hair care products used to perform typical hair routines. It makes hair easier to brush and prevents breakage. It's also used in deodorants, antiperspirants, and skincare products, and was used in dry cleaning fluid. D5 leads to adverse effects on the respiratory tract, liver, and nervous system of laboratory animals, and has also been connected to uterine tumors and may increase problems in the female reproductive system, as well as increase female reproductive diseases. Banned in Europe, the European Chemical Agency has called it a very persistent bioaccumulant. Applying heat to these chemicals with curling irons and straighteners releases them further into the air, increasing chemical emissions from 50% to 310%. They are then transported through homes' ventilation systems and in the atmosphere, circulating them through your home, the environment, and our neighborhoods, especially during morning hair care routines. For the health of you, your household, and your communities, choose hair products without D5-siloxane. If you are interested in knowing more about natural and real ingredient hair care products, give me a call. 504-858-4696.
This has been your Medical Minute with Honeydew Products on WBOK.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Tune in this Friday, November 15th at 8 a.m. to hear Liberty Bank and Trust discuss customized banking solutions. Power your dream and fuel community growth. Tune in this Friday, November 15th at 8 a.m. on The Good Morning Show.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Look, happy Thursday, y'all. We almost at week's end, but I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. In studio with me this morning is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And as you know, super producer Naren Sanders is behind the glass. And let me explain something to you, Josh. We can see your comments, and Naren is not happy about it. Naren said, go to the front porch with that mess. Don't come over here trying to start no stuff now, Josh. Listen, we are excited about what the Henry brothers and what any other notable alum are doing for their schools. So shout out to them again for their, what is that? The Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
And the
Circle
of
of
Champions.
Yes.
There's a wall. That's the Circle of Champions, but the field was identified or referenced as a Field of Dreams. So shout out to them for all the work that they're doing over there at 2600. But we're going to talk about, especially since we are in this post-election fog that we have going on, the cabinet picks for the president-elect and what that will mean for you. So we're going to let the senator talk about Donald Trump's cabinet picks, and some of them are just downright scary. If you ask me, downright scary. So
I'm going to just kind of run through several of them that we've been able to come across that have been made obvious or that have in fact been announced. One, we have the U.S. Senator, longtime U.S. Senator from the state of Florida, Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio has been announced as the Secretary of State, who will be our international face on the front. We also have a gentleman by the name of Pete Hedgebet, former congressperson. I'm sorry, that's the gentleman who is works for Fox News. And he has been chosen as the Secretary of Defense. This one really caught my attention because my understanding is that this person has no experience whatsoever, as do several other individuals that we're going to actually mention for the field that he's been actually chosen for. The one that has probably gotten the most national conversations is Matt Gaetz. For those of you guys who don't know who Matt Gaetz is the congressperson from the state of Florida, but he is currently under an ethics investigation for sex trafficking. And that's
it says that's Getz.
That's Matt Gaetz. So that's been going on for quite some time, and that was on the front page of the of most papers around the country for the last couple of years. He has been chosen as the number one attorney, as the attorney general for this entire country. And what that basically means is that he's the chief prosecutor. So if you have situations whereby, let's say, for instance, if there is an issue that comes up, and as with the 31 felony charges that President Trump has in fact been convicted of, if you had some other charges that were actually being put forward as the attorney general, it would oftentimes be up to him to make those decisions as to what goes forward. All of the other attorney generals who are around the entire country, 50 or so. So I think that is probably one of the most powerful positions in the entire country. So those and along with others that are coming through, those are the ones that have been identified, along with the former, the current governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, who is the Health and Human Services Director, Lee Zeldin, also a congressperson, who is going to be over the EPA, and Tulsi Gabbard, who actually is a former congressperson from Hawaii.
Former Democrat.
Former Democrat who endorsed Donald Trump, who has now been identified as the person who is actually going to lead the CIA doc.
Well, the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and I'm listening, we might pronounce some of these names wrong, so if we do, feel free to correct us. Sometimes they don't sound like they're spelled, so we're just going to do our best here. But what was notable about her being appointed or looked at to be the chief of staff is how Donald Trump refers to her. He calls her the Ice Maiden. That is his nickname for her, the Ice Maiden. He says she likes to sort of, be in the back. He said, but let me tell you, the Ice Maiden. We call her the Ice Maiden. So that is his pick for chief of staff. I think that's very telling in terms of what that means. The Ice Maiden, that's what he's calling her. The deputy chief of staff is Stephen Miller. That's also another scary one, in my opinion. They say Trump is expected to name Stephen Miller as the White House deputy chief of staff for policy, a role that would have him taking on a leading role writing and implementing the administration's immigration agenda. That agenda includes plans for mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. We also didn't mention the White House counsel is Bill McGinley. He's a longtime election attorney who served as a White House cabinet secretary during Trump's first term. During the 2024 election, he took on a new role as outside counsel for election integrity at the Republican National Committee. The one you did mention that surprised me was the Secretary of Defense. This guy is a news anchor for Fox. And he literally said, and I quote, that he says nice things about him. That's why he chose him. He looks good on TV, and he says nice things about him. That's literally what he said. And you really can't make this up. He is a veteran of the Army National Guard, where he did tours of duty in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay as an infantry officer. During his military service, he was awarded 2 Bronze Stars and a combat infantry badge. So he is going to be the Secretary of defense.
And Doc, let me mention this. You're talking about the Secretary of Defense. I just came across an article that's pretty interesting. And one of the very first things that they mentioned is that Trump's pick for defense secretary has said that women should not serve in combat.
He absolutely did say that. They should not be in combat infantry is what he said. And I believe a lot of what those types of people think is that women shouldn't do a whole lot of things. I believe if they could take away our right to vote, they'll do that as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that was very obvious when one of the other Fox News hosts said that if his wife went into the booth and voted for Kamala, it would be, tantamount to cheating on him. So that tells you that they don't want their wives to have independent thought. They want them to follow whatever lead they set down. So if they could take away our voting rights, they would. And also, like post-election, there's been this surge in your body, my choice. Sort of things being, the rhetoric being spewed. They don't want you to have body autonomy. They want to be able to control what we do with our bodies and how we do it, and it's up to them and their say. But Central Intelligence Agency Director John Ratcliffe, he is being, Ratcliffe previously served as the Director of National Intelligence during Trump's first term, where he oversaw all 18 of the nation's intelligence agencies. In selecting Ratcliffe, Trump is again turning to a loyal ally as he moves quickly to shape his foreign policy and national security teams. What is jarring to me is all of this feels like a quid pro quo sort of thing. Like you supported me, you helped fund my campaign, you did these things on my behalf, so I'm rewarding you with these appointments. And Marco Rubio, they dragged each other doing
J.D. Vance dragged for Trump.
It's crazy how quickly we turn for a little position and some perceived power. So the selection officially brings Florida Senator Marco Rubio into Trump's fold and offers a new chapter in the evolving relationship between the former rivals for the 2016 Republican presidential nomination. In years since, Rubio has become a close advisor to Trump on foreign relations and was even a top contender for vice president up until the day Trump announced. What is alarming too to me is what I don't see.
Okay.
Because Byron Donalds stumped a hole in the ground, shucking and jiving for Donald Trump. And I'm hearing, from you, that there's some talk that he's on some short list for something.
I don't remember what the office was.
But I don't see it in the media.
And my gut would tell me today is Thursday. By Sunday, we'll hear something regarding that. And I've talked about this off air. If anybody campaigned hard for Donald Trump, it was Byron Donald. Everywhere I looked,
with a straight face.
With a straight face, absolutely.
He talked about, how the policies that the former president and our president-elect worked to the betterment of particularly Black people. He said that with his whole chest. I'm wondering what he's going to give him in return for being Diamond and Silk. You remember Diamond and Silk?
I do remember Diamond and Silk.
Because
I do.
Byron Donalds was the new Byron Silk, and he was the new them.
Yeah.
Diamond and Silk.
Well, I don't know exactly what it was, but this was maybe 2 weeks before the election. I was at home late one night just watching TV, and happened to come across. And actually, this is on YouTube, and I came across a debate between Gary Chambers from Baton Rouge in New Orleans and Byron Donald. And I was fascinated because I watched it was so interesting going back and forth.
It was a debate on Tez on 10. Tezdal and Figaro
That's exactly what it was.
Them on. And the part I saw, which is the one I paid attention to, I should say, is when they were talking about education.
Okay.
And the way that Byron Donalds tried to pretend as if education is not doing poorly in this country, not just the state of Louisiana, but this country, because that's what Gary Chambers was leaning more towards, what education looks like in his state, particularly in a city like New Orleans. And he was trying to refute those claims, but you don't have any historical knowledge of what our schools used to be. You don't have any current knowledge about what they are because you don't live here. So you need to acquiesce to the person who has the pathway to the more accurate information. Absolutely. And he was trying to combat that, but that's neither here nor there. But another person we don't see on a short list of anything is Tim Scott. He even went out and married or got engaged or whatever he did so he can look the part in case he's called up.
And I'm very surprised not to hear his name mentioned more prominently. I heard his name being mentioned oftentimes, being on the short list for the actual vice presidency. I don't know if that was ever a reality or just kind of floating that out
I
there.
think they said that to stroke his ego and to get him to tap dance for the cause. Like, I don't think that he doesn't even know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I think that was a political ploy. What do you think? Because I mean, if I tell you're on a short list, that still gives you where you can poke your chest out, but it's not real. It's like putting Black Lives Matter on the ground. That doesn't mean our lives matter, but let me give you this mural and pacify you.
You're absolutely right. When you see that, it's floated nationwide. I'm sitting there just looking through these articles, and you got 100 different articles about what's going on. So just the idea of being mentioned probably gives you a lot of credibility in your base, and you don't really need that much in your base because the folks who elected him, there's a certain mindset that comes with that.
Well, we have a caller online. Good morning, DJ. Welcome
to
the
Good Morning Show.
Good morning, Senator Bishop. Good morning, Dr. Y. I hope you all are doing well this morning. So yesterday, you all brought up the Maya Angelou quote that when people open up and tell you who they are, believe them. You said that yesterday. So my thing is, America has showed you all 400 years ago who she is, a racist country. But yet this morning, you all are acting like you're so surprised when white supremacy shows its face, and it just has it so blatant. Like this is what America is, and the thing is that. Yes, you talked about the quid pro quo. It happens in every election. It happens with Obama. It happens with everybody. Anybody who supports you, you're gonna put them on the team. That happens. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. But we can't be surprised. I mean, somebody should have told Obama to make Dr. Umar his head of Department of Education. Nobody didn't tell him to go radical with regards to his thing. So listen, I've expected it. Like this is America. So anything that Donald Trump does, whoever he puts up. It's like, okay, I'm expecting it. Like we cannot expect Donald Trump to be a middle of the road type of candidate. This guy is a way right type of candidate. He's going to do way right type of things. He's going to shock the world. He's going to shock your conscience. But you have to understand that this is how they operate. So we just gonna have to ride this wave, and hopefully the Democrats can take some notes from the Republicans as far as how they're going to act a donkey for these next 4 years. I'm just want to let you know. They're going to act a donkey over the next 4 years. So maybe, hopefully, we can wake up and say maybe we don't have to always try to play the game by all the rules, because they don't play by the rules. But why do Democrats feel so compelled to play by the rules and stay within a rule book? No. When these people act gangster and smack you in the face, but yet when you get up there, it's like, okay, we're going to follow. No. You got to play the game. The Democrats aren't playing the game.
I could not agree with you more, but I don't think the senator or myself we're not shocked. That's why you hear the laughter behind it, because what we are putting out there is for the folk who actually voted for him based on the rhetoric that he was putting out prior to them putting him in office. And now you have people talking about, how do I change my vote? No, you got to stick with it, baby. You made a choice, stand on it. So we're not surprised at all. This is more facetious if it's anything for us, but we're not surprised. But I always thank you for your commentary.
And DJ, let me just say this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you had. Go ahead, Senator Bishop.
Yeah, I was going to say, and offline, we've actually talked about this. I think I even said yesterday, because we mentioned the fact that President Trump was appointing people and we seem to be surprised by what they said. No, that's not what we said. What I said was that there is quid pro quo in every election, Republican, Democrat, Independent. Typically, when you take a look at all of the surrogates that were all over the news media speaking on behalf of individuals, chances are those are folks who are selected and they are clones of the candidate. Yes. They spout out exactly what the candidate would say if they were there. So when it's time to pick your team, you're going to see those folks overrepresented in that cabinet. And I would just say that's politics 101. Whether you like it or don't like it, if you take a look at the last 40 years, you'll see similar actions.
Thank you, DJ. We appreciate your commentary as always.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Online too, Papa Baptiste, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Hey, comment ça va to everyone that's there. And your beautiful voice always inspires me when I hear you in the morning, dear.
Thank you so much.
All I want to say is the Caucasian women of America has chosen a rapist and finger pointed at a child molester to watch over them and their children and their girls. That's who the white women chose. Because in America, there's more white women than black women. The white women who helped put Trump in office the first time took him out. They put him back. He's worse than the first time they put him in, and they love it. And the fact that he's been charged and convicted of rape and sexual assault, the other guy trafficking and and children and young girls, they seem like they're down with that. So y'all can speak on that for me. I am not surprised, like the gentleman before. That's when they show you who they are.
Believe them.
You gotta believe them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Papa Baptiste.
Amen.
We appreciate you.
Be blessed.
Pop,
Listen, go ahead, Senator.
I was going to say, there's a lot of truth to what you said, and there's been a lot of, I guess, Monday morning quarterbacking about this election. And when we talk about that, in particular, we kind of focus on white women. If folks were being honest even before the election, we knew that when we look at just the raw numbers, I think my numbers suggest that about 13% of the U.S. population, particularly with, I guess, chronic voters, I guess, happen to be black individuals. So which means that we never had the raw numbers to physically, as an individual race, to put somebody in the White House. It was always going to be a combination of individuals. And what the thought was that, one, with Vice President Kamala Harris, with the background that she have, and particularly with abortion being a particular issue. And when we talk about the numbers themselves, there are more white women than white men or black women. So if you could carry the vast majority of white women, then you had a strong idea of being able to move forward. And I guess many of the polls that you saw seem to suggest that that was quite possible, which is also part of the reason why you had individuals who were trying to focus, and I think wrongfully focus this conversation on black men and how black men would somehow make the difference. And if somehow that Kamala Harris could not get over the hump and could not become president, to lay it at the feet of black men, which was absolutely erroneous. So those are some of the conversations that we're talking about. But you're absolutely correct. If the vast majority of white women had moved forward and done what we thought they would do based upon the polls that we saw, we'd have a different outcome right now.
Good morning, Reverend Calhoun. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. I do want to remind everyone about the the meeting that's going to happen at MLK High School tonight at 5. But I am concerned about his shift now to reorganizing the funding of the Department of Education. He hasn't made a pick as a department for a department head. But if you listen at Cassidy and all of those people this morning, the intent is to now defund the department and send the money supposedly to the states. This whole cabinet choice is like him. It's crazy.
Well, he's floating Laura Boebert. That's her name, Boebert.
That sounds correct.
He's floating. They're floating her name for that position, Reverend Calhoun, which is extremely scary. But when your idea is to dismantle it, it makes perfect sense. Why you would put somebody that, to me, that is incompetent in terms of what that department handles in that role. But I'm hearing her name for that position.
So if we look at what's happening, he's putting all of his people in place. Even though you have some people that on the Republican side saying the people that he's choosing is crazy. Well, because they have no experience, they have no understanding of what that job is. But again, voting has consequences.
Absolutely.
And I think we're going to see just how crazy this man really is. Because again, his goal is not for the United States of America. His goal is for Trumpism. And that he wants these people to follow him in whatever he thinks. And I'm telling you, I don't know what else to say to people.
We have to go to break, Reverend Calhoun, but you know we always appreciate your insight and your commentary. And I'm going to also announce the meeting again and again before we get off air. So please don't worry about that. I'll put it out there several times before we go. But thank you for your commentary. We have to go to break.
Reverend, can you hold on between the break? I want to mention something to you.
All right. Now.
Okay.
So listen, we have to go to break. T-Bone, Sean, please hold on. We definitely want to get your insight on this conversation. We will have more post-election talk right here on WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
The rain is done and the cold front has moved through. Expect a breezy and much cooler day with highs in the mid-70s. Dew points are dropping, so comfortable air is in store for today. Even cooler for Friday before a slight bump in temperatures this weekend. Next chance for rain is next week, and then temperatures will drop even more at the middle to the end of next week as well. For the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Life is made of unforgettable moments. Being with the people you love and doing the things you love to do. But if you're over 75 or 60 plus with certain health conditions, you're at higher risk for severe illness from RSV. An RSV vaccine can reduce that risk so you can be there for all those moments you've yet to make. Risk less, do more. Get started at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Join Inspire NOLA Charter Schools, Freddie King, Hancock Whitney, Six War Steppers, and more for 2 NOLA Love Drive-Thru Turkey and Ham giveaways. On Tuesday, November 26th, the first giveaway begins at 9 a.m. in Algiers at Alice Hart Charter School. And the second giveaway begins at 2 p.m. in historic Treme at the Mahalia Jackson Theater. Receive a free turkey or ham and food items while supplies last. We'll see you there. Learn more at inspirenolaschools.org.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 AM on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. In studio with me this morning is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And super producer Naira Sanders is behind the glass holding us all together. We're going to go straight to the phones talking post-election and what are the implications of these Trump appointments. Line 2, T-Bone, welcome to the Good Morning Show. T-Bone, are you there? I think we might have lost him. Not certain. Line 3, Sean, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Hey, I just want to say that with the situation that's going on, especially with Trump, the type of character he has, and the things that he's been accused of, and we can go out and elect someone like this guy, and it's not the first time. So it tells people that despite these faults, and we see it continues, or it's going to alienate people from voting, or should we be thinking about other things that we can do that could be beneficial if we see over and over that the system is rigged and we keep investing in it, thinking that it's going to get better, and we see the results coming in constantly? If they can keep voting people like that into office, as you guys said, that they have more white folk that's, gonna vote even when it makes no sense at all. I mean, should we be investing in something else that's gonna make our lives better?
Thank you for your comment and your question, Sean.
Let me just respond, I guess, to what you said. There's a lot of credibility to what you said, but I don't ever think that we can divorce ourselves from the political process. When we take a look at what's going on, what happened last week and what's going on right now, it's absolutely disheartening, and it is not the America that we bought into. Unfortunately, though, if you make the decision, as Councilman Thomas says on a regular basis, if you make a decision that you're not going to fool with politics, whether you fool with politics or not, politics is going to fool with you. I think our tenor now needs to be one: you have to fight, particularly for a lot of the things that we see that's about to go on, and even some things we haven't even thought about yet that we may in fact see. We spent 4 years under President Donald Trump. We know some of the drama that we're going to see. We know some of the concerns that we actually have, but that doesn't mean that we sit back, throw up our hands, and say, "Woe is me, we can't do that." So I think it's important for us to get that done. And even as we get over this idea that we're bothered and we're concerned about what's going to happen, we have to fight, we have to be vigilant, and make sure we protect particularly our community.
Brother James, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning. To the last caller, brothers, don't ever think that taking yourself out of the equation is the solution. Everybody that spoke that said that same speech, or I hear you when you say, is there something else we need to invest in? Never divest in something just because it didn't go your way. Sometimes the process is the process. Blame should be placed at the feet of the National Democratic Party for the way that they handled this election. This was not our fault, and unfortunately, this is a ride that we will all have to ride. Again, there will be casualties. Some people will not see the other side of this without getting some type of hurt, anguish, or dismay, if you will, at the process. But the process is the process, and this process is built for you to have a say. So don't take it that way, bro. Don't divest in voting. Invest heavily. Double down, if anything, I would say. And just keep the faith. I mean, at this point, that's all we have. So,
thank you, Brother James. I appreciate your commentary. Line 2, John, good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing? Well, this is an important lesson. For a percentage of black men that didn't vote for either, what it did is it taught the Democrats a very lesson they should learn from. Once, and also the black community. For the first time, these people have broken down and talking directly to us, even though what they offered us was like horse crap at the last minute. But it shows that if we put pressure on them, and they can no longer count on us as that easy girl in school anymore, that they have to begin to talk to us and engage with us as a people. I mean, we've been the loyal voting bloc, and they've been very disregarded, of our community. So going forward, hopefully they've taken notes and realized you can't handle African Americans like that anymore. Not that we had enough votes to swing the election, but it's still enough of us that can vote in very tight situations. If we swing one way or the other, we can make a very impactful difference. Now, we're going to have to move forward and say, look, we need policies that directly impact things that our community specifically deals with, and it has to be written and crafted in a way where can't nobody come and eat off our plate. Like when it gives something to Latinos or Asians or Arab Americans or these different groups, we can't stick our hand and eat off their plate. That's specifically for that group. So the same should be here. And like I said before, when they try to run that game, well, we can't do nothing race specific. Yes, you can. You enslaved us because of our race. So you can address that issue based on our race. And we can use other terms that are recognized. Freedmen. Okay, if you don't want to say race, just say freedmen. It means people who are descendants of slaves. So look, this was owed to us as freedmen. Another term is ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, Foundational Black Americans. All of those titles are basically apropos, applicable to, who we are in our situation. But the Democrats hopefully have learned a very important lesson. You cannot be disregarding of Black people, because this is just going to get worse and worse going forward, because we as a people see now, and particularly Black men, we saw the pimp in the hustle a long time ago, but thank God a lot of our sisters are seeing it. And I'll listen.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Listen, to your point, I absolutely, as you were talking, John, all I thought about was Title I money. Title I money is specific. You can't touch it for anything other than what they allotted it for. And I couldn't agree more that there needs to be policies, there needs to be initiatives that are specific to us. And to DJ's point, I'm with him 100%. I don't understand why we feel like we have to continue being politically correct. If they won't dog walk us, we need to start dog walking them too. I just don't understand why we have to play nice when people are declaring war on us. I don't get that. I'm not a turn the other cheek type of chick. I'm just not her. You're not going to hit me in my face and expect me to still yes, ma'am, you, no, sir, you. I'm not doing that. So for me, I don't understand why the Democrats feel like they have to walk this political correctness line, and the other side is all out warfare, is guerrilla warfare, and we over here just playing niceties, and we're trying to say it the way that people want it to come from us. I don't subscribe to that ideology, but that's just me. I'm not running for office, but that's neither here nor there. But T-Bone, I want you to hold, because I know you have some good stuff that you want to say, and we lost you the first time. So please hold. On the other side of the break, we're going to have more conversations about post-election implications. T-Bone, hold on 1 second for me. Stay right here. WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Carrie Lake thanked her supporters after losing the Arizona Senate race to Democrat Ruben Gallego. In a social media video, she described her campaign as a movement of love. Despite her defeat, Lake vowed to continue fighting for Arizona. Meta will face trial in an antitrust case brought by the FTC over its acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp. A federal judge issued an order denying the Mark Zuckerberg-led company's request to drop the case. The FTC previously sued Meta in 2020. A man is hospitalized after his prosthetic leg got stuck on the accelerator, causing a high-speed crash in Clay Township, Pennsylvania. His vehicle hit another car, crashed through a fence, and sped into a field. The severity of his injuries is unknown. And the long-awaited fight between boxing legend Mike Tyson and YouTuber Jake Paul is set to go down on Friday. Netflix will live stream the fight live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
New Schools for New Orleans, along with All-State Sugar Bowl and Entergy New Orleans, would like to send a huge congratulations to our class of 2024 New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Award honorees. This year, we had 90 Teachers of the Year from each public school in New Orleans. Each of them was recognized at our annual gala, where we had over 350 attendees. We're excited to also share that each honoree is receiving a $1,000 classroom grant. Thank you for everything you do, teachers.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. As you heard Reverend Calhoun say, if you care about Martin Luther King High School, there is a meeting today, 5 p.m. in the high school's auditorium. Please get out if you can and support that school and that school's community. That school is up for closure. We do not want it to close. If you want to lift your voice and lend it to that school, go there tonight, 5 p.m., the high school auditorium. The phone lines are lit, so we're going to go straight there. Good morning, T-Bone. Welcome
T-Bone,
to
thanks
the
for
Good
holding.
Morning Show.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to stay a man of my word. I had told G about a week or so ago I was not going to talk politics on this station or anywhere anymore because of the current environment. I'm fearful for my family. I'm fearful for my extended family. So this is why I'm going to pose this question to you, Counselor Bishop. I worked with you some time ago at SUNO.
Okay.
So I know you would be qualified to answer this question, and I need you to do this for me, brother. I need you to answer it from a legal perspective, not a political perspective, please.
I'm listening.
Can Donald Trump legally make himself a dictator of this country? And this is very important that the audience listens to this. You know, and I know we have a very intelligent audience here at BOK, but apparently things was lost in political translation during this election because there were some brothers and sisters who voted wrong. Majority of the sisters voted like they were supposed to for Harris. But there was some distortion with brothers who did not want a woman in charge, did not believe in Harris, and slipped. So for those of you that sitting up there saying, can you change your vote? No, that's not the way this goes. Now, Brother Bishop, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, T-Bone.
Sure. I'll try and answer the question to the extent that I can. I'm currently not practicing law, so I can't offer you a legal opinion that you would be bound by. I think what you hear around the country right now is whether or not what he is saying and what many of his surrogates are saying gives what you would call dictatorial vibes. And that being that what you hear him saying is what you heard other individuals say, is what you heard individuals say in Germany, is what you heard other people say in other countries that had this dictatorship type of mentality. So it brings some concern as to whether or not if he does what he says he's going to do or what his advocates are saying he's going to do, would he in fact or could he in fact lend himself to be a dictator? That's not the form of government that we have in this country. But I think the concern is that when you hear someone say certain things that you've heard before in times and from people that really concerns you, I think that's where the problems actually come. So to answer your question, can Donald Trump decide unilaterally that he can be a dictator? No, he can't. But he's saying things that we've heard from individuals who considered themselves to be dictators in the past.
Listen, line 2, Shedrick, welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning, Shedrick.
Good morning. Good morning. Wow. We need to add that it ain't just what he's saying, it's what he's doing. And it's the mood of white people. Grandparents and parents, please talk to your children and grandchildren about why they must vote from this moment on. And lastly, desegregation has hurt black people on multiple levels because we have allowed ourselves to become laxed and forgetful. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Shedrick,
Thank
for
you.
your comment. Ms. Jones, line 3, welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody. How could I ever say it? This election was, I would say, theft by deception. He's been deceiving. About 10 years ago, I always say it was the 5 Ds: deception, destruction, distortion, disruption, what have you. What we need to do now is people need to really wake up your own personal lives, try to gel with relatives and close friends to be able to survive, because the man is really very dangerous. The top concern is the affiliation with Putin. Senator Bishop, Russia has never been a friend of the United States. They said you would destroy within. We remember hearing that as children because we used to listen to the news with the adults then. Look at Watergate. I think Republicans disguised and slipped in as Democrats. Frank Wills, the lone security guard, discovered it, where Republicans were listening to the Democrats' meetings and what have you. And when he died, unfortunately, he had been fighting, couldn't even get a job, had to fight to get disability. So what Donald Trump is doing and think he could get by with is going to be turncoat. Like I said yesterday, deceiving and being deceived. That's what the good book says for anybody who believes in it. It's going to turn. But people just don't look at, what he's doing. And as far as those documents are concerned, I don't think there were really any real documents in it, because I look at how they were wrapped. They probably faked that because they never addressed that much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. We appreciate your call and your insight. What do you say, Senator?
Ms. Jones, just real quick, you use a term that I think is a very interesting term. You said theft by deception. And I understand exactly what you said, but I might take just a little bit of an issue with what you said, and let me tell you why. During this election process, and not just these last couple of months, but even the prior 4 years when Donald Trump was in office, when we say theft by deception, I think Donald Trump was very straightforward with what he wanted to do, what he intended to do, and he repeated that over and over again. It seems so crazy and so unrealistic. A lot of it just thought there's no way in the world people can purposely make the decision to vote for someone who's doing and who's saying and who's proposing what it is that he's doing. Well, we didn't look back to last Tuesday and we realized that the bulk of the country, although they heard what he said about any number of issues, still decided to cast a vote for Donald Trump. And now we're looking at buyer's remorse because now that he's attempting to follow through on what he said he would do, we're like, well, how in the world could this ever happen? And unfortunately, so that's why I say that I don't know if it's necessarily deception, because he wants to do and is doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Well, to Ms. Jones's point, when she's speaking about the theft by deception, I think one of the key components of the theft by deception, in my opinion, is his disassociation with Project 2025. He was outright not telling the truth about his affiliation and his buy-in with that, even down to the authors of that document. He was trying to act as if he did not know them. He had no association with them. That was not his policy. And as we are now watching in real time, that everything that he's saying is strictly out the playbook of Project 2025. So that's one of the things I can say personally where the theft by deception comes into play, even down to saying things like, he's not going to do these things. He's not, and then that's the first thing he decides to do.
Well, see, I think most folks knew that was a lie.
No, but we did. Most people did, but he did deceive some people because some people bought into that. Not saying us as black people, black men, black women, because to T-Bone's point, and I want to be very clear, black men overwhelmingly supported Kamala Harris for the presidency. There's a small faction of men who could not accept a woman being the commander-in-chief. Very small, and I'm talking about both demographics
1%.
of people, not just black men. But we're not going to lay this at the feet of black men and say that they did not support her. I saw a conversation in the Atlanta barbershop that was shocking to me. It was young black men in a barbershop in Atlanta talking about why they just could not vote for her. And one of the talking points they said was she just didn't speak to her policies. And I would push, if I was the person interviewing them, and I would have said, well, I personally saw policy from her that spoke to home ownership, that spoke to job and improvement, that spoke to the things that they were saying she didn't have any answers for. But then I would turn around and say, well, what policies did he say that would increase your quality of living? Like you, if you're going to talk about policy, you talk about it from both spectrums. You can't just say she's not giving us what we're asking, but you can't name one policy that he's talking about that gives you what you're looking for. So then it has to be something else there. It can't be about the policy. But that's a very small percentage of men, whether black, white, or other, who had that to say about her. But specifically to black men, they overwhelmingly supported the vice president in her bid for the White House. The
numbers I saw the night after the election said that Kamala Harris only got 1 percentage point less from black men than did Joe Biden. So this whole idea is a fallacy. It was something that was put out there in the event that if she came up short, which she ultimately did, to try and lay it on our feet.
No different than Putin coming out saying he supported her. That was a tactic. Yeah. We know he didn't support her, but he said that so he can make the folk who are listening believe that she was somehow his ally to sway their support of Donald Trump.
Another excuse not to support him.
It was all smoke and mirrors, but that is why I say we have to educate our voter populace. We have to put civics back in our schools. We need to put civics in our communities. All of these community meetings they have are to center around civics, because even the 45-year-old black man doesn't understand what branch of government governs what initiatives. They don't know. And so they're blaming Donald Trump or giving him credit for things that he didn't actually do. Because you don't understand branches of government and how that actually happens. One example of that, I don't know if you saw it, Senator, where this guy wrote in, anonymously might I add, and he said, and I quote, he voted for Trump because he hated Obamacare. They needed to get rid of Obamacare, but they bet not touch the Affordable Care Act. And the host of the show says, sir, Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. And he was livid. He was like, well, why do they have two different names for it? And they're trying to, no. The opposition started to call it Obamacare, trying to make some negative connotation around it. But that's the same healthcare that's covering you, that's actually saving your life right now. But you voted for this man because you hate that a black man once ran this country. That's literally what I heard in his commentary.
And the Obamacare that you benefit from, and that the vast majority of people...
He's taking credit for.
He's
so taking credit for, and that is Obamacare. But he literally said, I voted for him because I want them to do away with that Obamacare mess. It's not good. It never was good. And so the host, who was a white man, he said, but you do understand that Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act.
Well, many in the conservative media stopped calling it Obamacare once the numbers showed that it actually worked for people. Well, it can't be Obamacare. It was Obamacare and we thought it wasn't working, but now that it is working, let's call it the Affordable Care Act.
So let's talk about the appointments that we didn't tell you about. The National Security Advisor is Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz, he had an integral role in the U.S. policy and geopolitical conflicts ranging from the war in Ukraine to the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Waltz, a former Army Green Beret, is a longtime Trump ally who has established himself as a leading critic of China in Congress. We talked yesterday about the border czar, Tom Homan. Tom Homan is going to be appointed as the border czar. He served as the acting head of Immigration and Customs, which is ICE, during Trump's first term in office. In Trump's second term, he will serve as the border czar, which does not require Senate confirmation. Notice, that's a way to get him around those confirmation hearings. The role will have Homan in charge of the southern and northern U.S. borders, as well as all maritime and aviation security. The U.S. ambassador to Israel is Mike Huckabee.
Former governor of Arkansas.
And I don't know if y'all pay attention to social media, but Candace Owens came out and said she can't believe she wasn't appointed as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Now, I don't know if she was being facetious or not, but she tweeted that. She tweeted that she could not believe that he did not appoint her as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. But the former Arkansas governor, Mike Huckabee, is a longtime supporter of Israel and a critic of the Biden administration's handling of the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. Mike has been a great public servant, governor, and leader in faith for many years, per Trump. That is a quote directly from
And
the president-elect.
He is the former governor of Arkansas, ran for president, but his daughter is the current governor of Arkansas.
Yes. The UN ambassador is Elise Stefanik. Stefanik is the highest-ranking woman in Republican in the House and has been a key ally of Trump over the years and was reported to have been a contender as his running mate during the presidential election. You spoke very briefly about the EPA administrator is going to be former Representative Lee Zeldin. And I'm kind of curious, Senator, as with the policies that are listed in Project 2025, this is one of those departmental agencies that seems to be on the dismantling block. But nevertheless, he appointed former Rep. Lee Zeldin to head that initiative. And, of course, the Department of Government Efficiency, which is in quotation marks in the article.
Yes, absolutely.
We talked about that yesterday. It does not currently exist, but he's creating it so that Elon and Vivek can run the Department of Government Efficiency.
And, Doc, just to pause there for a second, we talk about it not currently existing. My big concern about it, because it currently does not exist, then that means that they get to make their own rules. They get to make their own policies. And there are the numbers in both the House and the Senate that then allow it to be placed in place.
To your point, the president-elect is quoted as saying Elon and Vivek will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excessive regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies, which he called essential to save America. So those are the current appointments. Like we said, we have not seen Tim Scott anywhere in the mix, nor have we seen
Byron
Donalds. I mean, they did a lot. The bottom of their feet should be hurting because they did a lot to try to get his attention. As we also know, the current governor of the state of Louisiana, we heard his name kind of be in the mix about some appointments as well. But I do know that the current governor of Louisiana came out with a statement saying that
he would not accept.
He would not. Yeah, he wasn't interested in.
Also, and I don't know exactly what it was, but I've also heard mention of a former congressman from Louisiana, Gary Graves. As we know, that Gary Graves' congressional district was eliminated by a current governor. And so I've been told that there is some thought for that. We've talked about this whole quid pro quo conversation.
Yeah.
And so typically when you see whether or not it's U.S. senators who don't return to the Senate for whatever reason, Congress people who don't return to Congress for whatever reason, we're talking about hundreds upon hundreds and upon hundreds of potential of positions that are available that is at the discretion of the House, the Senate, but really at the discretion of the newly elected president. So stay informed, stay tuned, and I think you're going to see a lot more of what's going on right now.
Listen, one of the comments in the chat says, I'm eager to see what's going to happen when Elon and the president-elect start to butt heads, because those are two huge egos, and we know they both can't always have their way. So we're curious to see what's going to happen should something like that happen. But that's the rundown of the president-elect's cabinet picks and key advisors as of November 13th, 2024 at 3:51 p.m. Maybe they've had some new ones since then. And if so, we'll bring them to you tomorrow here on the Good Morning Show. But listen, we have to go to break. But on the other side of the break, we are going to talk to Colbert Sanders. He's a tax attorney. He's going to give us an overview of Governor Landry's tax plans amidst the special session. So stay with us right here on WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
Norman Robinson is back.
Can you hear me now?
And he's taking no prisoners.
Can you hear me now?
Each weekday, Norman Robinson brings you commentary with Off the Top.
The incident was shocking, disturbing, disgusting, disappointing, and sad.
Each weekday, Off the Top with Norman Robinson is heard exclusively right here.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month, a service of the community scientist and Rise St. James. This month, we're focusing on lead, a heavy metal that's dense, soft, and poses serious health risks. In Cancer Alley, lead exposure from industrial emissions or contaminated soil can significantly increase cancer risks and other health problems. Stay informed and protect your health. For more information, visit risestjames.org.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
This is Andronica Morris, host of Put Housing First. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, where we will discuss how housing affects every aspect of our lives and what's necessary, what's needed to guarantee housing for all. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock as we dig down deep onto the issues that affect all of us.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Dr. Ashansa Wyatt in studio with me this morning is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And super producer Naira Sanders is behind the glass holding us down. And
Always
right now
we
are going to jump into conversation with Sanders Colbert. He's a tax attorney, and we're going to talk all things tax plans amidst the special session. So this is Governor Landry's tax plans, and you are the tax expert. So we're going to have this conversation. I'll let the senator lead us off.
Sure. Can you kind of give us just a general breakdown? When we have a special session, usually there's a particular area that the governor who's in place decides they want to move with, or whether or not the House or the Senate. Talk a little bit about what's the method and the methodology, I guess, behind what's going on right now with this special session.
Gotcha. So the governor has issued his call that they can basically only bring in legislation for a limited number of issues related to these tax reforms that have been proposed. And this has been one of the most I'd say audacious or ambitious overall tax reform proposals, because it's not there's two main items that he's trying to address. One is that beginning in the middle of next year, come June 30th, 2025, we're currently forecasted to have a huge fiscal crisis in the state budget due to the expiration of the 0.45%.
Gonna fall off the fiscal cliff.
Yeah, fall off the fiscal cliff. Because in 2018, when we had a previous fiscal cliff, the legislature passed a temporary 0.45% sales tax hike to plug a previous gap. And that sales tax hike is scheduled to expire on its own terms on June 30th of 2025. So if nothing else happens, we're going to have a impending fiscal cliff that needs to be dealt with next year. And then at the same time, he's trying to solve that problem by making the previous temporary sales tax hike permanent. And at the same time, he's also trying to solve a bunch of other long-standing issues in the Louisiana tax system at the same time. So he's really trying to solve, in the tax profession in Louisiana, there's all these kind of complaints that we've kind of had of how our tax system is more complex compared to basically any other state in the country. And he's really trying to do his best to solve as many of some of these issues at the same time, while also trying to plug that gap from the expiration next year.
Now, my understanding also is that one, we have a very short amount of time to try and get this done, but also of all the bills that we're talking about, we're really only talking about, I think there are 25 House bills that are being considered, and there are 8 Senate bills that are being considered. So we're not talking about this little huge duration of what we're dealing with. So what are some of the most important ones that we're dealing with and that he's focusing upon to try and move forward?
So there's the governor's, his tax reform proposal has around 10 core bills that he introduced draft legislation for. Obviously, the other legislators can bring in their own bills, but there's 10 core bills part of his tax reform plan. One is to basically cut income taxes for everyone, for individuals, and there would be 2 elements to that. One would be a flat 3% tax rate for all individuals, combined with a near tripling of the standard deduction for state income tax purposes from $4,500 to $12,500, or $25,000 for married filing jointly.
Now, that flat tax you're speaking of, actually, you've seen versions of that over the last several years. Is there anything that's different about what he's proposing as opposed to what's been out there in the past?
Yeah, so currently there's a bracket system where the highest rate's 4.25%. There would just be a single flat tax, and you'd think that would raise taxes on lower incomes because the 3% flat tax is higher than the current lowest rate, but that would be done in conjunction with the near tripling of the exemption amount. So when you combine those two, it's actually all income levels would get an income tax cut.
So, which leads me to my question, because I'm a regular person. I don't have corporate anything. So in your professional opinion, how do you think Landry's tax overhaul will impact the average working class Louisiana resident?
So the average Louisiana resident would immediately get an income tax cut for state income tax purposes. And then in the corresponding element to raise revenue would be an expansion of the sales tax. And that would be done he wouldn't raise sales tax rates, but it would primarily be done through, one, extending the sales tax to a bunch of services which are currently not taxable. Because by default, sales tax applies to all sales of goods unless exempted. And then by default, sales tax doesn't apply to any services unless specifically included. So what this would do is in general, sales taxes generally don't apply to services, but this would start applying the sales tax to around 50 specific services. And so the governor has described them as luxury services, so things like pet grooming or personal fitness services, or lobbying, which is one of the more interesting ones. And overall, for average working class Louisiana residents, these are probably services that they're less likely to spend money on compared to wealthier residents, like personal fitness and pet grooming.
Gotcha.
So when you combine those 2 elements in, it's probably going to have a modest progressive increase in between higher income and lower income Louisiana residents, but fairly modest.
Landscaping services?
Landscaping services would be considered. Gotta start mowing your own lawn.
Folk gonna find you if you don't cut your grass. But I did see that list, and I think for the layperson who doesn't understand the tax structure, a lot of questions were out there because it was all over social media in terms of the list of things, and there were some goods or services that didn't seem to be luxury in nature. But I guess big picture. So you're thinking that this new tax proposal is going to decrease taxes for the regular, everyday working class person, but slightly increase it for the wealthier residents?
Yeah, so it's hard to see because a lot of it is dependent on what portion of the population uses these sales taxes. But based on the projections from the Department of Revenue looking at it, it would seem to be fairly modest because the types of services that would be impacted with these additional taxes are the kind that are utilized more by higher income brackets. But I expect it overall to be fairly modest when you combine the total income tax and sales tax consequences.
Some of what, and I said this also, Doc, and I raised the same question, I guess, that you talked about.
Yeah.
If you're talking, and I mean, lawn care and grass is something that's kind of basic, that you actually deal with that. But my concern is that when you make a decision that, okay, now I'm going to tax certain things that have not been taxed in the past under the guise that this is going to help the average everyday citizen. I'm just curious as to whether or not that is really true.
I mean, it may or may not be true. A lot of it is just also the governor's pointed this out. We've been bleeding out population as a state for years now, especially compared to other growing populations in the state like Florida, Texas, North Carolina, and with some of these income tax proposals are just to make us more competitive. Because he's trying to not just reduce the individual income tax, but also we currently have the highest corporate income tax in the South for state corporate income tax at 7.5%. So a lot of it is, and it's especially because we're right next to Texas, which not only has Texas been a booming state for all of my life, but it's right next door and it has no income taxes whatsoever.
I believe Florida also doesn't have income tax.
Yes, that's correct. Florida and Texas both have no income tax. And so part of it is just trying to position us in a way that we can be more attractive and competitive for individuals and businesses in the state. But I think the overall sales and income tax changes on the individual side are probably less important to me than some of the business tax reforms that the governor is proposing, such as the elimination of the franchise tax, which is that probably won't, most individual working class Louisiana residents won't notice that. But that's one of these kind of weird taxes we have in the background that are, I think, probably really serve to disincentivize investment in our state.
Right. What are you hearing? I know you told me you've been following the special session, and it's still in, I guess it's early days. But what kind of feedback are you hearing, be it from the New Orleans delegation, the Baton Rouge delegation? What are they saying about at least the governor's initial idea of putting that out there and how they respond?
So I think overall, a lot of this is being driven by, the governor currently has a supermajority in the legislature, and a lot of these changes are going to require the 2/3 supermajority. And there's been, the Republicans seem to be sticking together, and a few Democrats seem to be joining in. And to be honest, the legislation, at least that has gone through the House so far, it's been more smoother than expected. And a lot of people, when he first announced this, we said there's no way that this is just too ambitious and it's hitting all these areas at once, but it has been surprising to see, at least on the tax cut bills are the ones they've passed first, introduced, and those seem to be sailing through. And now as we get into the revenue raising measures with the sales tax, that'll be more interesting to see. And I think the Senate, everyone's expecting the lower house has been pretty smooth passing, going through.
A lot easier to get through.
Yeah, people expect the Senate is probably going to have maybe a few changes when it gets there.
We're in conversation with Sanders Colbert. He's a tax attorney, and we're talking about Governor Landry's tax plans amidst the special session. If you have a question, the number here is 504-582-9422. So, Sanders, do you believe that property taxes will be impacted?
By and large, no. There's really two main changes to property taxes. One is that a lot of the current provisions of law that are related to property taxes are in the Louisiana Constitution, and those would be deleted from the Louisiana Constitution, and just most of them would be rewritten word for word in just normal, regular law. And so that wouldn't have any the only change that would have is that it would make it easier for the legislature to make changes in the future, because it's really hard to change the constitutional provisions. So that would not have any immediate substantive change. It would just give more flexibility to the legislature in the future. And then the other property tax change is currently, it relates to the business inventory personal property tax. And Louisiana is currently one of the only states in the country that subject business inventory to property taxes. And so this is like if you have a warehouse, and the warehouse has lots of finished product and inventory, and subjecting those to property taxes based on the value of the inventory in a building as of a certain point in the year. Most states don't do that because it disincentivizes companies from building warehouses or fulfillment centers or a lot of industrial and commercial activities that have a lot of inventory. We're one of the only places that do that, and that's been a big kind of issue that makes us less competitive compared to other states. And the governor, in his part of his tax reform, it's fairly clever because he couldn't propose a change just to eliminate it, prevent parishes from levying these taxes, because parishes are very politically powerful in Louisiana, and this is a source of revenue for there's 10 parishes that get a decent amount of revenue from this. So instead of the stick, they've done a carrot, where his plan would give parishes a one-time option to exempt their local business inventory from these personal property taxes. So the parishes would have to do it out of their own accord. But if the parishes that do voluntarily elect to do this would get a one-time payment, which would be equal to around 3 times their current annual personal property taxes from inventory. So it's kind of a carrot incentive to encourage parishes to exempt these taxes on their own accord, and that's to overcome the political opposition from shoving it down their throats.
Okay. Of the 10 bills that are part of the governor's core package, which of these ones require, I guess, a constitutional amendment? And the reason why I'm saying that is that I know that when you have a constitutional amendment, not only do you need to get 2/3 of vote of the House and the Senate and then signed by the governor, but then it has to go before the voters of Louisiana. And it's almost, many times, it's impossible to get those votes run the entire state. Now, this is a little bit of a different situation because he's relatively new governor, and the kind of political capital he has or that he's willing to expend to get this passed might be another issue. But I guess in your thoughts, what are the ones, I guess, are, along with the ones that have already passed and it was similarly easier, what's really the biggest ones he's trying to get forward that may take up some difficulty to get?
So the ones that are related to the constitutional changes, those are related to this property tax measure about the giving parishes the option.
Gotcha.
The consolidation of the 2 savings accounts. One's the Revenue Stabilization Trust Fund and the Budget Stabilization Fund. Those are 2 existing savings accounts that would be consolidated, and that would require some rewrites in the Constitution. But overall, it's hard to say which one of these tax provisions are the most important because they're all in conjunction. Like they kind of have to happen in tandem because you can't pass these income tax cuts. If you just pass the income tax cuts alone, it would blow a huge hole in the budget. And so those have to be passed with the if you pass the cuts here, you have to increase the sales taxes over there. And vice versa. If you just pass the sales tax increases, that would be a huge unintended tax hike without the income tax cuts. So a lot of the sales tax and income tax, which are the main kind of changes of the overall tax reform plan, have to be passed in tandem because it's taking away here and then adding here. The only part of the plan which I think kind of mainly stands alone is likely this the inventory property tax change for businesses, and that could probably is a little bit independent because that's kind of a separate issue.
I guess for me, I'm going to ask lay questions. So will individuals be paying more taxes than corporations? I guess that's what all of the WBOK listening audience wants to know. Like, how will this impact our tax paying prowess, and will individuals be paying more taxes than a corporation?
So the current top tax rate in Louisiana for corporations is 7.5%, and the current top tax rate on individuals in Louisiana is 4.25%. Under these proposed changes, the top individual rate would be lowered to 3%, and then the top corporate rate would be lowered first starting to 5.5% next year, and then thereafter 3.5%.
A flat 3.5%.
Yes, and that's without an exemption. Individuals, they would have 3% with a $12,500 exemption amount. Corporations would just have a flat, ultimately 3.5%. So it would ultimately be a corporate tax would be a little bit higher than the income tax for individuals. But a lot of it's also is that, we want jobs in this state. We need to be able to attract corporations that can otherwise do business in Texas. Because currently, the current corporate tax rate at 7.5% is the highest in the South. Not just next door to Texas with 0, but even states like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. It's the highest in the South.
So what impact would that have on? Because I'm hearing things about the film industry. Like we have a lot of movies come here to shoot. The Hollywood of the South is what they were calling us at one point. What impact would that have on the film industry or the need for them to come here and do business?
So that's part of the revenue savings measures. They would phase out a whole host of tax incentives for the film industry, for angel investor programs, historic tax credits, the Quality Jobs Program. Basically, the Department of Revenue has looked at a lot of these programs and isn't seeing a big bang for their buck. And I think with the film industry, that tax credit started 20 years ago. And the original plan with the film industry tax credit was, this was back in the early 2000s. We didn't really have much of a film industry, and the main idea was this is going to be an expensive credit. It costs several hundreds of millions of dollars every year to the state budget. And the original plan was, we get this credit, we can get a domestic, local film industry that can be self-sustainable, and then eventually the credit could be removed, and the industry could stand on its own legs. It seems to be that it's whatever, if it isn't self-sustainable at this point, after 20 years of these types of credits, then I think a lot of people in the legislature are thinking it either has to stand on its own feet at this point, or we just have to continue subsidizing it for indefinitely. Because the Department of Revenue's projections is that for every dollar of money that they spend on this subsidy, it generates less than $1 in tax revenue. So that they think that there's actually if it was making more money in tax revenue by the income taxes paid by people working in the film industry, then it would be a net benefit. There would be no reason to cut it. But based on their data, it seems to have a lower return on investment than the cost.
Well, I know part of the rationale behind that, and we look at the city of New Orleans, and our main competition, particularly when we're talking about the industry, is with the city of Atlanta. And so oftentimes when there is a major project that's out there, that's usually our chief nemesis in trying to attract that. And that was some of the logic. We've talked about this for the last 20 years in trying to put that piece together. So I think that's part of the reason why that's that. And it specifically affects the city of New Orleans because we disproportionately benefit whenever there's a major project here, whether or not it's economic development, whether or not it is caterers who provide food for that, whether or not it's actors who come in. We have many individuals who on a regular basis who may not necessarily work full-time, but then they provide that kind of income based upon the project that we have here on a regular basis. One other question I wanted to mention to you is that, and you talked about how it was seemingly easy sailing when it went through the actual House, and that they are expected that in the Senate you're going to see some pushback, some angling, some different change that are actually going to be there. Other than members of the House and the Senate and maybe factions there, are there any other groups that are pushing out there and who are saying, well, you know what, this may not be a good idea. I know this is this idea. We need to take a look at that. What are you hearing as far as other groups, as far as weighing in on what's being proposed? So
the two most controversial of the tax incentive programs, the two most controversial cuts would be the phasing out of the film industry credit, and also the most controversial is probably the early phasing out of the historic tax credit, and that's for the rehabilitation expenditures to help rehabilitate old buildings in cultural districts,
which is really important here.
It's very important in New Orleans, and that is one that it's not just New Orleans, even a lot of rural parishes, that because there's also a rural credit that's available for houses there and buildings, not just residential houses, but it's old commercial buildings that have facades on main streets in smaller towns that might have seen better days, and a lot of even rural areas see this as a important credit for helping revitalize some of their downtown districts.
So in the minute and a half that we have left, what is your takeaway? Like, what do you want the WBOK listening audience and people who are tuning in right now to understand about the governor's tax plan?
So I think that what most people don't see behind the scenes is that Louisiana has one of the most convoluted tax systems in the country. We're one of the only states, I think us with Colorado, where not only do we have a local and a state sales tax, but we have the local parishes all collect their own sales tax. So if you have a business with operations in 10 parishes, you're paying sales tax to 11 different collectors just in Louisiana. And then also we are one of the only states that levy a franchise tax. Around 16 states levy a similar tax. We have the highest rate in the country. And this is a tax that's levied just on the on businesses just for the sake of conducting business and owning property in Louisiana. It's a direct tax on making investments into Louisiana, whether or not they're profitable or not. And so that's one of the big taxes that they're trying to eliminate. So to the extent that the governor's plan is trying to simplify the sales tax system to the extent possible by aligning exemptions between the state and local sales tax component, to the extent they're trying to make us more competitive by repealing these uncompetitive taxes like the franchise tax or the business inventory personal property tax. They're really trying to solve a lot of long-standing problems that probably are not visible to most ordinary Louisianians, in addition to this kind of streamlining of income taxes with a lower flat rate.
Well, you heard it here on WBOK. Sanders Coper, tax attorney, talking about Governor Landry's tax plans amidst the special session. Do you have any issues with coming back talking to us? Because I think it's so layered. We need more of your insight in terms of the tax plan and all of the bills that are currently being discussed in the special session. So you'll come back?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Happy to come back.
Listen, stay with us. We'll have more conversation after the break. This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
The rain is done and the cold front has moved through. Expect a breezy and much cooler day with highs in the mid-70s. Dew points are dropping, so comfortable air is in store for today. Even cooler for Friday before a slight bump in temperatures this weekend. Next chance for rain is next week, and then temperatures will drop even more at the middle to the end of next week as well. For the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation, hosted by Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams. Education Elevation will highlight the achievements, innovations, and contributions of scholars, educators, schools, and the district. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. for engaging conversations and updates as we strengthen connections and support the needs of our scholars. Mark your calendars for every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine the light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Are y'all ready to invade Southwood Hall? Sunday night, November the 17th at 200 Monticello Avenue in New Orleans.
Let's do it.
The Eris Love Foundation presents the Purple Patient Gala fundraiser for pancreatic cancer and lupus awareness, featuring the meanest, iconic original bass player, George Porter Jr. and special guest, Rockin' Doozy. Along with James Andrews. Plus the versus battle between old school and new school divas, the Funky Monkeys, Sharon Martin, Barbara Shaw's Rochelle Cook, Vegas Cole, and Maya Renee, along with the Sporty Brains Band. VIP tickets only $150, which includes a private dinner with champagne or wine. General admission tickets only $75 with free food. Tickets available at Eris Love Foundation and Eventbrite, or go to SouthportHall.com. Doors open at 7. Greg D's let you know. Sunday night, November the 17th at Southport Hall, it's gonna be what?
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon to What's Growing New Orleans. Hosted by Angel Vanderpool, What's Growing New Orleans is a weekly conversation about developing and growing Black businesses throughout the region. Brought to you by the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. In studio with me is
Senator Wesley Bishop.
And behind the glass, holding us all together, super producer Nyron Sanders. Our GM is back there as well. And Jared, our producer Jared, is back there as well. So listen, we want to give a shout out to our guest, Sanders Colbert, for coming in and spending time with us to enlighten us and inform us on the governor's tax plans amidst the special session. He's promised to come back before that session ends on November 25th. So you'll get to hear more from Sanders Colbert in the coming days. And if you have a question for him, the number here is 504-582-9422. Please remember to call in or even drop your questions in the chat, because now is the time to get your questions answered specifically around your tax dollars. I want to address something. We were talking about Troy Henry and Rustin Henry's gift to St. Augustine High School, and we started talking about the philanthropic nature of the alumni base of St. Aug. But make no mistake that we're talking about it because we know about it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a school out there that is doing some wonderful things, if there are alum giving back to their school in ways that are not fiscal, you could give your time, you can give your expertise, whatever you're doing to uplift your alumni base or your school, or you're doing something on behalf of children and you want people to know about it, then all you have to do is inform us about it. We are not going to fight in the comments about it and try to discredit one school over another. All of the schools in New Orleans pre-Katrina have very rich histories, very rich alumni bases. St. Aug has a rich base. McDonough 35 has a rich base. Even Kennedy has a rich base. Fortier, all of these schools Clark, who we don't see anymore, they still have rich alumni bases, and it's evident in the picnics that we see throughout the year with things going on. I mean, they have some of the best picnics on this side of the river with schools who don't even have buildings anymore. So that speaks to the connectivity of those generations of people who have gone through that building. Whether you're the class of 1960 or you're the class of 2014 and so on, there's a connectivity there that needs to be honored. And I do agree that, you know, we should never uplift one school over another, but it's not that here. It's just that's what's in the media. That is what's being talked about.
That's what's hot right now.
We talk about the news here. So even if what you're doing for your school doesn't make the news, if you drop it in the chat and you're like, Doc, this is what happened over at 35, I'm going to talk about it. If you say this is what's going on at Kennedy, I'm going to talk about it, especially if it highlights our children and it puts them in a positive light, like the young ladies over there at St. Mary's, who are constantly breaking barriers in terms of their discoveries about mathematical concepts. Those are the types of things that we are going to always honor and uplift here at WBOK, the place where Black excellence and Black voices are centered. And
Doc, let me just say this. And while you were talking, it kind of hit my mind. Last graduation season, I remember seeing several stories that talked about 6 young Black men who are valedictorians at their high school.
Yes, absolutely.
And most of those were traditional high schools, and we highlighted that because that needs to be highlighted. Black excellence needs to be highlighted.
Absolutely. And so if you have something, Senator, if you know about something, bring it to the studio and we can talk about it. You can text it to me. I monitor my text for information. I monitor the chat for information. We want to put it out there because we do understand what our schools look like pre-Katrina, and we don't want to ever give anybody the misconception that we don't have greatness that came from all of our schools pre-Katrina and post-Katrina. There's schools still doing some phenomenal things, and if you know about them, just share them with us. They don't have to make the news to be phenomenal, and more often than not, the really good stuff doesn't make the news because nobody knows about it. And so I'm here to tell you that we are not going to battle in the comments about this school versus this school, and we're all one New Orleans
for that foolishness.
For me. And this is why a lot of real stuff can't get handled, because we get stuck in the weeds of things. While folk are making real plans against us, we're stuck in the weeds trying to battle it out in the comments. We're not going to do that here. If you know about something that your school is doing and you want WBOK to talk about it, then let us know about it. If you feel like this is excellent and that the news isn't covered it, then we'll cover it. But we need you to understand that we are stronger and we are better as one. We are. So when things great happen at St. Aug, the entire city of New Orleans ought to be celebrating it.
Exactly.
When things great happen at 35, the entire city of New Orleans ought to be celebrating it. When great things happen at Carr, the entire city should be talking about it. When great things happen at McMain, I'm only going to say McMain because I see my GM back there waving his hand. He think I can't see him. He's a proud McMain Mustang. Talk about it. We're going to talk about it here. We are not going to be divisive here, not at WBOK.
And Doc, I got to say it because Willie Calhoun called it earlier, and he calls on a regular basis. But Willie Calhoun will cut you over George Washington Carver High School.
He
so I got to
absolutely
give
will.
him a shout out.
And listen, Carver,
And
we
he
talk
should.
about Carver all the time
Yes,
here.
we do. Yes,
we
we
talk
do.
about Carver all the time here and its history in sports. And I can remember personally running against the girls from Carver, baby. And so I have personal knowledge of what was going on. Oh, listen, don't play with me now. Don't play with me now because I did get my lick back. We're not going to talk about that. But listen, we have to be certain that when we have this banter that is friendly and that is in love, and it's not to disparage any other institution and what they're doing that's great. Because you know, if anybody could pop their stuff about 33, 32 Huntley Drive or 4400 General Maya is the Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. I'm going to talk about Carr to the day they put me in the grave. But that does not mean that I cannot speak to the greatness that happens at other schools.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love this city. I love everything this city stands for. I love the heart of this city, and I love the children of this city. So we're not going to do that, y'all. We're going to make certain that when we're magnifying one school, we're not magnifying one school at the disparagement of another school. We're not going to do that here. But absolute shout out to Rustin and Troy Henry for what they're doing over there at St. Augustine. Shout out to Austin Taylor as the president of that institution. He's doing what presidents are supposed to do.
Absolutely.
I think every school deserves an Austin Taylor at their school to move their school forward. Shout out to Jamar McNeely and what he's doing at Inspire NOLA Charter Schools. Like, we have to make certain that we honor people for the good that they're doing, because when they're not doing the right thing, we're going to call them to the carpet. I know I will, Senator. You don't have to do it, but I will. Because when you call people to the carpet in love, it shows them that you care about their well-being and what they're doing on behalf of children. And if I could exalt you when you're doing well, I could call you to the carpet when you miss the mark. And I expect everybody to do the same for me. If I missed the mark, you tell me about it, and you allow me to correct myself. But if you're talking about me in secret and you're not bringing it to me, then I can't do anything about that. We all want to grow together here.
Doc, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's extremely important to actually get that done. We have all type of challenges in the city that's going to take all of us pulling together to try and move forward with it, most of which deal with our educational system. And that's just the reality of it. Any parent in the city of New Orleans who has children, school-age children, and you're trying to educate those kids, there are decisions after decisions after decisions you have to make, try to prepare your children to move forward in this world. So the last thing we need to be doing is sitting there arguing about what's going on at this school or that school. There's enough for everybody
around. You can banter, but it has to be in love. We're not gonna,
always in love.
We're not going to fight about it. But listen, Naira, we need to get DJ Jubilee on the show so we could be like, what's the name of your school? And put some fun back into the comment section, because it was getting critical in the comment section. So listen, we love the love. We love that y'all are engaging in the comments with WBOK. We love perspectives. We have to just respect each other's perspectives. That's all it's about. Let me invite you guys to the front porch. Up next, we're Greater Than Kimber. This has been a wonderful show. And again, we want to thank Sanders Cobra for coming in and sharing the governor's tax plans for the state of Louisiana. But stay with us right here on WBOK for the front porch. Up next, I will see you guys tomorrow. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt.
I am Wesley Bishop.
This is WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
See y'all tomorrow.
See ya.